Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Here I am Vibhuti Patel, Professor and Head of Economics Department of SNDT Women's University. Today we are going to deliberate on a very interesting subject, namely issues taken up by women's rights movement in India. The new women's movement has played a very important role in bringing women's issues center stage. The action agenda of women's rights movement in India has been evolved with an understanding that men outnumber women in India unlike most other countries. That means there is a declining sex ratio. Majority of women go through life in a state of nutritional stress. That means they are anemic, they are malnourished. Girls and women face nutritional discrimination within the family. Women eat last, least and leftover. Average Indian woman has a little control over her sexuality, fertility and reproductive health. Literacy rate of women in India is lower as compared to their male counterpart. There is a gender gap in educational profile of men and women, girls and boys. Even when girls are enrolled, many of them drop out. So the dropout rate from school is also very high for girls. Women's work is undervalued, unrecognized and invisibilized. Women work longer hours than men. They do most of the housework and community work which is unpaid and invisible. Once women's work is professionalized, there is practically a monopoly of the men. For example, professional chefs are still largely men. The sexual division of labor ensures that women always end up as having to prioritize unpaid domestic work and care work over the paid work. There is no natural biological difference that lies behind the sexual division of labor, but the certain ideological assumptions that women generally they earn lower wages than men for doing the same work. Despite the Equal Remuneration Act that was adopted by India in 1976, we see that most of the women and men, they have unequal wages in agricultural sector, in informal sector. Majority of women workers are in the unorganized sector and they barely manage to get subsistence wages. Women are underrepresented in governance and decision-making positions in the parliament, in the cabinet, in the high courts, in the Supreme Courts, where you rarely see women. Women are legally discriminated against in land and property rights. Most do not own property in their own name and do not get share of parental property, even though now we have a law. Women face violence within and outside the family throughout their life cycle from pre-birth till they end up in the grave. Casteism, communalism, ethnic chauvinism, institutionalized violence against Dalits, religious minority and tribal women. Women who don't adhere to the heterosexual and endogamous marriage get punished severely by the family, by the community, by the criminal legal system, because that also there are double standards of sexual morality for men and women. Women's movement took up with this understanding. The first issue which women's rights movement took up was a violence against women. The movement got momentum with a campaign against Supreme Court of India's judgment against Mathura, a teenage tribal girl who was gang raped by the policeman at the dead of night in the police station in Chandrapur district of Maharashtra in 1972. After 8 years of legal battle, the Sessions Court, the High Court and the Supreme Court, the battle was fought by her sympathetic lawyer, Advocate Vasudha Dagambar. The victim, Mathura, lost everything in her status, her self-esteem, her credibility, and the court declared that Mathura was not raped by the uniformed policeman, but it was a consensual, willful consent she had given, and the sexual intercourse was consensual. Vasudha Dagambar and the 4 lawyers of Delhi University, Professor Upendra Bakshi, Professor Latika Sarkar, Professor Kelkar and Vasudha, they challenged the Supreme Court decision and wrote an open letter. This letter was widely publicized in the print media. 2 major points concerning Mathura rape case which the letter highlighted were reopening of Mathura rape case, Mathura needed justice, amendments in the antiquated rape law which put burden of proof on the victim, survivor of violence rather than on the culprit. Around these demands, the women's groups were formed throughout the country. They collected signatures for the petition. They conducted study circles on violence against women. By the experienced lawyers, they talked about the legal reforms. They organized sit-ins and rallies and picketing and Gherao and organized street corner meetings, poster exhibition, plays, skits, songs, slogans, creative expressions, paintings, they came out, and Indian women's energy came out in a nationwide anti-rape movement. The first organization that was formed was the Forum Against Rape in 1980, and later on in several cities like Delhi and Kanpur and Bangalore and Hyderabad and Chennai, Ahmedabad, everywhere new organizations came up. They did not limit themselves to only the issue of rape, but they took up the issue of dowry murders or sexual harassment at workplace, sexist portrayal of women in media, or domestic violence faced by women in their parental home, or in-laws home, and they demanded series of legal reforms. They also challenge the power relations operating in the modern families, whether they are working class, middle class or upper class, different religious communities and various caste organizations. And this new gusto that was seen was also touched the very important core called family laws, which govern relations between brother and sister, father and daughter, mother and son, husband and wife, and the family laws that deal with the divorce, maintenance, alimony, property rights, custody of child and children, guardianship rights. Women had challenged one or the other discriminatory aspect of these laws. Hindu daughters were deprived of co-parcenary rights in the parental property as per the code of Mitakshara. Christian women could not get divorced on the ground of husband's adultery. It had to be coupled with cruelty, bestiality and sodomy, while Christian husbands could get divorce on the ground of adultery. So these were the double standards. These antiquated laws were enacted in the colonial period to serve the interest of the British bureaucrats who had their legally wedded wives in England and were cohabiting with the Indian women, and they were called native women. Parsi daughters who married non-Parsi men lost their property rights, and non-Parsi wives who married Parsi husband, they got only half the share in husband's property. So Parsi personal law was also discriminatory. Sharia law subjugated Muslim women by imposing parda, allowing polygamy, unilateral divorce and talaq by man to his wife or wives, and by depriving divorced Muslim women of maintenance rights. Underlying the philosophy of all these personal laws was that women are not equal to men. They are governed by patriarchal ideology. Personal laws, they are irrespective of their religious or backgrounds. These personal laws perpetuate patrilineage, patrilocality, double standard of sexual morality for men and women, and perceive women as dependent on men, and individual women from different communities. They have challenged various discriminatory aspects, and they have challenged the constitutional validity of discriminatory aspects of these personal laws in Supreme Court of India, High Courts of India and lower courts of India. Increasing number of educated working women and housewives from all religious backgrounds have been approaching secular women's organizations. Main problems faced by them from their natal families have begun, like whether it's a forcible marriage or murderous attacks in case of intercaste or interreligious or interclass marriages, property disputes, incest, and various domestic violence from their husbands or in-laws, question of adultery, bigamy, polygamy, divorce, custody of child or children, justice in all these issues, women are demanding justice. The religious identities and the secular issues of day-to-day life, they are also concerned. Mass organizations, community organizations, secular political parties, secular organizations, progressive groups, all of them have plunged into the volatile debate around personal laws. And they are tribal women of Maharashtra and Bihar. They have filed petition demanding rights, land rights of women in the Supreme Court of India. Several women's groups such as Saheli in Delhi, Vimochana in Bangalore, Forum Against Oppression of Women in Mumbai, Human Rights Lawyers Team and in Mumbai, Human Rights and Law Network, or Indian Social Institute, they have prepared drafts containing technical details of gender just and secular family laws. And this debate has been going on for past 3 decades. In terms of series of legislative reforms in last 30 years, what we have seen that laws concerning violence against women and girls have come into existence. India is the first country to, India's first family court was established in 1984. Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 was enacted due to pressure exerted by women's movement to safeguard the interest of survivors of domestic violence. The Domestic Violence, Prevention of Domestic Violence Act has been broadened the definition of domestic violence, which includes violence against women, senior citizens, abuse of mentally unfit certificate, incest, rape by family members, relatives, forced marriage or prostitution. They are also included in domestic violence. The Act recognizes right to residence and provision of appointment of protection officer and recognition of the service providers and also training of protection officers, judges, continuous awareness creation and budgetary allocation for implementation of the law, which has a very important roles to the service providers such as lawyers and police and doctors and shelter homes. From the very beginning of the women's movement, legal reforms has been a topmost priority in terms of campaigning, lobbying and demanding from this changes from the state. In 1980, when the rape law was amended, later on Dowry Prohibition Act, where giving and taking of dowry became a criminal, demanding protection of women from domestic violence, and also similarly the struggle against declining sex ratio and pre-birth elimination of daughters, that means selective abortion of female fetuses of pregnant women. We got a new law called Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act in 2002. Public interest litigations were filed to deal with the sexual harassment at workplace by NGOs, which resulted into Supreme Court Directive for Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace in 1997, popularly known as the Vishakha Directive. The NGO that has filed the petition was Vishakha from Rajasthan. Now, it recognized that throughout the country, we needed this kind of law. We have a law concerning trafficking of women and children. Many cases of violence against women also get resolved in the neighborhood committees or in the community organizations, in the People's Court. And women's movement has emphasized that violence against women is a manifestation of unequal power relations between man and women. If women are empowered by the community or by the official support, we can fight, we can tilt the balance in favor of gender justice. When it comes to reduction in the proportion of women in India over last 100 years, like the proportion of women in the Indian population has been going down, and sex ratio is defined as a number of women per 1,000 men. And we have seen that it is a very, very dangerously low for women, and it has been continuously declining. And that's why campaign Forum Against Sex Determination and Sex Preselection has come into existence way back in 1972, when Towards Equality report was presented to the Government of India. The attention was drawn to the fact of deficit of women in the Indian population. What we have seen is that also declining work participation of women, that is also very dangerous, because economic independence is the minimum necessary condition for women's dignity and self-reliance. Over the years, we have seen that the around towards equality, which report which became a galvanizing force for the women's rights group to decide the important agenda. We have seen that the women's movement's first-hand experiences also became very important in highlighting the issue. For example, concern regarding like declining sex ratio has been raised on an international platform through UN agency. So the women's movement also made wider linkages in these emerging social issues. However, the problem of declining sex ratio has become worse as well as more complex, and in fact reached an alarming proportions in certain states like Haryana, Punjab, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Karnataka. Concern with regard to this has also is voiced in the international platforms through UN agencies like UNFPA. Studies have highlighted that the multiple dimensions of problem, because it's not only declining sex ratio, but also the technologies are becoming more and more advanced, which facilitates even pre-birth selection of of fetus, of the gender of the fetus through assisted reproduction like IVF or GIST or GIFT. These technologies are also used for perpetuation of femicide. When it comes to reproductive rights, most of the efforts of the women's organizations in India have been directed against excesses committed in the name of population stabilization, family planning programs. Now, Indian Council of Medical Research, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Institute of Research in Reproduction, or IRR, they have shown readiness to discuss scientific, medico-legal and operational dimensions of biomedical researches conducted on human subjects. Ethical guidelines have come up. UNFPA in 1998, World Health Organization have drawn guidelines about population policies, that is focus or shifts from targeting women for population control to women's reproductive rights. Ethical guidelines for biomedical researches are drawn. Still, in the interior parts of India, poor women have been the main targets of abusive sterilization operations and also unsafe injectable and oral contraceptives. The recent researches on adolescent girls and also like abortion have highlighted the problem of teenage pregnancies, trafficking of young girls for sex trade and complicity of the criminal justice system. Campaign against sex selection and sex determination resulted into the central legislation banning amniocentesis, chorion villi biopsy, sex pre-selection techniques for femicide. But much is needed to be done to make the legislation effective in real life. Sehat, Center for Inquiry into Health and Allied Themes, and the Lawyers Collective have jointly supported a petition like public interest litigation in Supreme Court of India filed by Dr. Sabu George for effective implementation of the Act. And what we saw is the new PCPNDT Act, which was signed by President Dr. Abdul Kalam in 2002. In several parts of India, we have also noticed anti-ARIC, anti-alcohol movement. Since the mid-70s, tribal women's organizations in Andhra Pradesh, Manipur, Maharashtra, they have been fighting against alcohol or liquor sale in their own village or in the area, which results into devastation of the families, lowering of the nutrition, increase in domestic violence, child malnutrition. An anti-ARIC movement culminated in 1992-93 in creating a new strong women's movement in Andhra Pradesh. 40,000 women united and blocked the REC auction in Andhra Pradesh. It was a historic chapter in the Indian women's movement. And also in Maharashtra, we have seen that the elected women's representatives in local self-government institutions, that means Panchayati Raj institutions, have forced the sale of alcohol in the areas where 50% of the women, village women, if they oppose sale of alcohol. That means by raising of hand, if 50% village women say that they don't want alcohol shop in the village, then that village should be declared as alcohol-free village. Women's movement has played a very pivotal role in the peace movement. They have contributed to peacemaking, peace building and peacekeeping. Peace initiatives in the disturbed areas torn by communal conflict, ethnic tension, mob violence, women have worked bravely. Media publicity on these issues is extremely important so that such work can be replicated in other parts of the country. The Indian women's movement has played pivotal role also in proving support to the victims of violence, and also they have taken up the campaign against xenophobia and jingoism. We have seen that women's movement has also played a very important role in bringing development agenda, and they have questioned the conventional indicators of development such as modernization, white revolution, green revolution. They have qualified what they mean by women and development. Indicators of development are also decided. The efforts of the women activists were directed in the agitation and propaganda for women's rights, street lighting against escalating violence against women, then team building to counter sexual harassment at workplace. In the 1990s, women's movement is demanding its legitimate place within the mainstream with its own agenda of government for, say, partnership with the men. It has been able to identify its allies in all sections of society. Its horizontal and vertical networking has created congenial atmosphere to execute development agenda with the help of effective use of information technology, communication channels, modern managerial practices, efficient law and order machinery. The most difficult areas have been providing educational opportunities for poverty groups, Dalits, tribal women, low-cost housing, environment and occupational safety, human rights concerns. The state, political parties, beneficiaries of women's groups too have a duty to ensure democratic and multicultural atmosphere within which the women activists can take judicious and gender just decisions about allocation of developmental resources and developmental funding for construction of schools, community centers, sports clubs, libraries, reading rooms, low-cost hospitals, low-cost housing, working women's hostel for the poverty groups. Gender budgeting becomes a tool used by elected women representatives to promote gender equality. Women's movement has also come up with a very strong critique of neoliberal economic policies. While the diversity in the social fabric of India has historically seen continuities and contestations, interactions between different social movements and social segments have increasingly come to be mediated through socio-economic processes where the needs and principles of marketized economy prevail. That means women have to deal with the strong forces of markets and money power. There has been all the more so apparent since 1990s with the new economic policy. What we saw is that significant attempts to negotiate these rights in different spheres with the aim of keeping alive guiding principles laid out by the Constitution. Current policy frameworks and paradigm of development pose serious challenges to these rights guaranteed by the Constitution of India. Women's movement has also taken up the question of livelihood. Livelihood concerns of the women such as fuel, fodder, water, animal care, agriculture, kitchen gardening, fisheries, food security, food sovereignty are taken up by the feminists and not only at a policy level but also in terms of mobilizing women and formulation of a successful models by rural and tribal women's collectives. For example, Navadanya in Uttaranchal, Annadana Soil Seed Savers in Bangalore, V. Rukmini Rao's work in Andhra Pradesh, Asha Kacharu's efforts in organizing women farmers in Andhra Pradesh. Coming to sexual harassment at workplace, which is declared as a major occupational hazard of the 21st century, what we have to understand that Indian women's movement has taken it up for last 30 years, but the major landmark came in 1997 with the Vishakha Directive and the Vishakha Guideline by the recommended by the Supreme Court, where safety of women becomes a prime responsibility of the employer. No employer can say that he did not know about the law or about this law, and now we have in 2013 we also have a law for prevention of sexual harassment at workplace, which defines also the responsibility of the employers, constitution of the internal complaints committee, and the punishment to the accused. So this is a very, very important achievement of the women's movement. When it comes to women's movement has played a very important role as activists, as a civil society organizations, or as independent researchers and women's studies scholars, because women's studies is the discipline which doesn't believe in ivory tower esoteric research, but it is the use of knowledge or the research findings is for social change, for empowerment of women. So women's studies has become the galvanizing force and the movers and shakers of reality of women. They have been such women who are empowered with the knowledge and data and lung power and tongue power. We have seen that the historical injustices, economic inequalities, discrimination, marginalization, they have been challenged by the women's movement, and at the same time what we see that the new sisterhood or new collective formations, they have also enhanced the confidence of women. Caste hierarchies have been challenged. Women's movement now in the 21st century, young women who are entering the women's movement and the feminist groups, they have made excellent use of social media by launching Yahoo groups, Google groups, besides cyber forums, blogs, and they are also build communication and coordinated action. Sharing the intellectual work and resources, creating archives with photographic memories, reports, posters, diaries, songs, documentaries on women's issues which are available online. For example, Feminist India Yahoo group provides a platform to 5 generations of women's rights activists, one who is a 15-year-old, another one who is a 95-year-old. We have a Women Prajna, www Prajna Archives from Chennai, or a Sparrow Women's Archives, or we have AVA Women's Archives housed in SNDT Women's University Research Center for Women's Studies. We have a Center for Women's Development Studies website, which is also very important. Art, humor, music, both offline and online social media have been effectively used by feminist groups as a form of resistance and influencing of the young and old alike. Cyberspace is a new area of concern for feminists as it has become a site for gender-based violence through Facebook or other social networking sites. Connection with the international debates and actors is a prime importance. Now world capitalism works as a global unit. Women's rights activists emerged from the struggles of solidarity for global issues such as anti-war movement, fight against racial discrimination, African liberation, working class and trade union movements in any part of the world, national liberation struggles in Latin America, in Asian countries, assertion of identity by native population and minorities. They were connected with international debates on the role of revolutionary movement in women's liberation and also relationship of women's movement and the state, why there is a need for autonomy of women's organizations from the mainstream political parties, importance of networking with perspective of think globally and act locally, and also think globally, act globally, and also think locally, act locally. Development organizations with women also is a international network. So thinking globally, acting wherever you are is very important message which the women's movement has given. In conclusion, I would like to evoke that in last 50 years of feminist activism in India, women's movement has managed to challenge the 5,000 years of patriarchal control over women by striking at the root of exploitation and oppression, subjugation and degradation of women by deconstructing covert and overt violence against women in personal and public lives, to question pillars of male domination within family, kinship networks, organized religion, media and state, series of legal reforms with respect to family laws dealing with marriage, divorce, custody of child and children, maintenance, inheritance, domestic violence, sexual harassment at workplace, sexual violence, maternity benefits, gender budgeting. They have become the part of official agenda due to feminist movement. For this, pioneers of women's rights movement and women's studies scholars, they work in unison, and it is this unity of theory and praxis that has gained so many milestones and so many achievements for the women's movement. Thank you.